Welcome to the In the Money Poker Podcast, your source for all things poker. Here we're going to discuss everything from beginner tips to high-level play. We'll be talking to the top players and experts in the game so that you can learn how to take your poker game to the next level. I'm your host, Michael Gabriel, and thank you for listening. All right, well, welcome to In the Marketing Podcast, where I am so excited to interview Jeff Banek. One thing that you don't know, Jeff, is that I look up to you anyways.
Oh, thanks, bro. I appreciate that. That's really nice.
Oh my gosh. I'm in, we're in the marketing world, and I see the things that you're doing and the whole Russell Brunson stuff. And I could sit here and talk about marketing all day, but It's funny how I've seen how my poker skills kind of transitioning into this marketing strategy thing. And it's pretty crazy and fun. Small world. Other than that, Jeff used to play poker for a living outside of what he's currently doing right now. And I just want to hear about your story and your journey and maybe some advice that you can give to people moving forward. But I guess the first thing is just tell me how did you even get interested in poker in general? How did all that start?
So it started out, I was actually in the military for 4 years. I was a special forces medic with the Marines, with Force Recon with them. Did that for 4 years, got out, and then got into fitness as a personal trainer because back then you didn't need certifications, things like that. You could just be in shape and start doing trainer. A buddy of mine was a manager at a gym. So he's like, hey, you're in good shape. You work out all the time. You want to be a personal trainer. And I just got out of the military. I had no clue what I wanted to do. So I'm like, sure. Long story short, I did that for about 15 years doing personal training. I worked my way up the ranks to fitness manager and then general manager. And then I was running a gym in Carlsbad, California, LA Fitness off of the 15. And during the middle of the day at the gym, it slowed down quite a bit. Like you get the morning rush and then you get the afternoon rush when people get off work. But the middle of the day is sort of slow. So I'd have, 2-3 hours to kill that I go take lunch or whatever. And then I forgot what the actual year was, but it was a year that Chris Moneymaker won the World Series. And no offense against Chris, but he's sort of a goofball. And I'm just like watching him, and I'm just like, if this guy can win, I can at least play poker. And mind you, at this point, I had never played a hand of Texas Hold'em in my entire life. Never. I'd never played poker, never played stud, never played anything. So I decided to go all in on poker. I'm like, I'm going to learn poker. So I went and got Super Systems by Doyle Brunson. I got every book that I could find on it, started reading all the forums. I even got to the point where I was making flashcards with the percentages for certain hands. So I'd be like, okay, ace king, you got like 45% to win right off the bat with it, blah, blah, blah. And then I would start learning all the percentages for every flop, how much it would be on the river, all that in the turn and everything, to where I can look at my hand, look at the board, look at how many players were in it, and know within a couple percentage points what my hand is to win. Now, the sad thing with poker, as we all know, you could be 95% to win, but that doesn't mean you're going to win every time by any means. So anyway, long story short, I started going to a casino up the street called Ocean's 11. It was an actual card room. On my lunch breaks, started playing. Took about, like I said, I'd never played. Literally, I walked in and I'm like, I $100. I was playing 1-2, and I'm just like, okay, I have no clue how to stack chips. I don't know how to hold my cards. I don't know anything other than what I've read in these books. And it took about 6 months and about $4,000 that I wind up losing. But then all of a sudden, one day, it was like a switch flipped. And ever since then, I've been a winning poker player. I can even now walk into, mind you, it's gotten way tougher now than it was back then because everybody and their mother is trying to figure out how to play poker and win. You had all these newbies that had no clue what was going on. So long story short, I started making more money as a poker player than I was in my job as a general manager running a gym. And I was, doing okay, 40, 50 grand a year. And I was making more than that playing poker. So I'm like, maybe I'm going to try this professionally. So I was living in San Diego at that point, and what do you do if you want to be a professional poker player? You move to Vegas, right? So moved to Vegas with just, a bag and a couple other things, just had no possessions hardly, but had a nice bankroll, moved down. And for 3 years, that's all I did was play poker for a living. And what most people don't realize is the 1st, the 15th, and Fridays are paydays for people. And when people suck at poker, they tend to lose their money quickly. So on the 1st, the 15th, and Fridays, I'd go to bed at like 7, 8 o'clock at night. I'd get up at like 1 or 2 in the morning. I'd be walking in with my Starbucks, all bright-eyed, bushy-tails, and everybody be drunk. They'd be stuck trying to gamble to get their money back. And unlike a lot of poker players, I view this as a job. Like a lot of the grinders would sit there and they're playing 10, 12, 16 hours a day just grinding. And there's like, I don't care what anybody says, there's tends to be a law of diminishing returns where you're not going to win as much over time. So instead of doing that, I'd set a limit. Okay, this time I want to win $2,000. I want to win $3,000, whatever it is. And I don't care how fast I'd hit it. As soon as I hit it, I'm up and leaving, because the tables when you live in Vegas are always going to be there waiting for you. You know what I mean? So I remember one time I lucked out. I was playing 510, bought in for $500, sat down, and everybody else had stacks. Like the smallest stack compared to mine was like $3,000 or something like that. And like I said, I bought in for like 500. It was 510. Boom, I get pocket aces, right? Right off the bat, like first fucking hand, excuse my language, sorry, first hand, I get pocket aces. And the one bad thing that hopefully a lot of the players realize, like pocket aces are great, but it's only a pair. You know what I mean? Like there's so much that beats it. So it being the greatest starting hand, long story short, goes around the table, I raise, re-raise. Next thing I know, there's literally like 8 out of the 9 players are all in. So like we're looking at 5 times 8, $4,000 right there, you know, just from my 500. So one dude turns over, he's going for a flush. Another dude turns over, he's going for a straight. Another guy's got a set already. Another guy's got pocket kings, and I got pocket aces. And then the turn is a king, and I'm just like, I'm so mad. River's an ace. And up, dude, took it all down 4K within like my first hand. I've been sitting at the table for literally one hand. Got up, everyone's like, hey, aren't you going to let us try and win it back? I'm like, hell no, take it easy. Just laugh, man. Just because that was my job. That was the thing. I trained myself to learn tails, to sit there, to engage with people. Sometimes I'd play to where, like, if there was some really drunk dude that was really loose and gambling a lot, I'd engage with him because I'd focus on him. One of the things I learned right off the bat is when you're playing poker, you don't want to try and beat everybody. You want to single in on 1 or 2 people and try and take their stacks. And another thing that was really like a rule for me is I take a look at everybody's stack, add them all up, and never try to win more than half of the total amount at the table. Like that was one of the things that I found. If you ever tried, like you said numbers, so say I'm playing 510, just for easy math, let's say there's 9 players, everybody's got 500 in front of them. My limit's going to be 4,500. I really found that you could get lucky, you could get runs, it would happen, but on a consistent basis to win more than half the amount on the table usually was really hard. At least that was my rule that I set for me back then. So yeah, I would just play, winded up doing really well, did it for 3 straight years, had tons of fun, I don't know about fun all the time because it was definitely a grind. Like it was a grind, but a lot of great experience. And then one year it came down. Like I said, I was playing higher limits, $1,000 buy-ins, not crazy buy-ins by any means. There's way higher than that, but $5,000, $10,000 buy-ins here and there. And this guy just got lucky on me back to back to back. And that was my one rule too. I would evaluate my player and I'm like, well, if the guy got lucky on me and stacked me and wind up taking all my stack, I'd buy back in if it was luck. But if I was playing bad and making bad calls, then I wouldn't buy back in no matter what. I'd have a certain amount. Like I had very strict rules on how I played and what I did. And this guy just kept getting lucky. He literally one time had a 2%er, hits it on the river for one, it was another one, pair over pairs. We both had sets. And one dude even flipped over the other card. He had 10s. I had kings at that time. We both had set over, or I had pair. He had set. And I'm just like, or wait, no, I had the set. He had another pair. He had kings. I had 10s. And one dude even turns over a king and is like, oh man, you're down to 1 out. And then he king on the river. And I'm just, king on the river. And so long story short, he won probably like 3 or 4 grand off me really quick, just really quick, because I was buying in 1,000 a pop at that point. And what a lot of people don't realize is the money you gamble with or play with is also the money you live off of. You pay your bills, all that type of stuff, bankroll management. So I got down to like my final like 10 grand, my final year playing. And I wish I had some cool story where I was like, oh, I bet it all and I ended up winning like 100K or something, but I don't. What I decided to do instead was to give up playing, get a real job. I started doing personal training again. And that's sort of what led to the whole funnel doc and everything, because I got back in. I'm trying like, well, how can I market my personal training brand online? I don't want to just do it locally anymore. I want to do it worldwide. And that's when I was studying underneath this gentleman named Bedros Keuilian, amazing mentor, amazing guy. He taught me a lot of sales and fitness and things like that. And he was the one who introduced me to this book, .com secrets from some random dude, Russell Brunson. And that literally started the whole journey, man. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, my poker story.
Oh my gosh. So that's exciting. So sometimes I deal with that as well. Like, I'm sitting at the table. Now I live in I don't want to say a small town, but it's a small town. I'm in Ohio.
Sure.
And you see all the same faces at the table. Well, if I go in the morning, it's the same people in the morning as it is in the afternoon or evening. And I try to do the whole like poker etiquette thing where, if I take a big hand, I'm like, I can't just leave right away. I got to play out at least a few more rounds. But I feel it would be so much easier in Vegas because it's just almost an endless pool of kind of like, one, you have so many casinos to go to. I have one probably 20 minutes away. I got one in either direction, 2 hours. So I'm really just playing in that one spot. And so congratulations, man. That's good to be able to have that discipline because that's part of it too.
Well, just like you, though, you get to learn all the other grinders. Like, there's certain people and like, for instance, that was one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people when they're playing for a living make is table selection. Like if there's 5 tables in the room playing no limit or whatever, and I see that half of them are regular grinders, I'm not going to sit down at those tables just because it's like literally I know how they play. And most of them are playing super tight. They're waiting for the right spots and all that, just like I'm doing to some degree, waiting for the button. That's like for anyone listening that doesn't understand, like, the dealer's button is the biggest power thing you can have. The closer the button is to you, or if you're on the button itself, the more loose you can play because the people in front of you now can't call. Like they've already called, they've already made action. So you literally have on the button the maximum amount of information that you can and position to be able to make calls, plays, raise, or whatever it is. Comparative to under the gun, where you're the first seat that's right underneath the big blind, where literally you could have the best hand aces, but then if the next dude calls and all of a sudden the next dude calls and all of a sudden people start getting what they call pot odds where they think I'm got a chance, which statistically it makes sense to call by the numbers. Next thing you know, you're going up against 5 different people with pocket aces, and your chance to win with pocket aces with 3 people.
I want to thank you for listening. This is part 1 of the interview. Please click on the next episode to finish and listen to part 2. Well, that wraps up another episode of the In the Money Poker Podcast. We hope that you had as much fun listening as we did recording. Be sure to check back next week for more exciting poker-related discussions. Until then, good luck at the tables and keep on grinding.